Now I'm going to make my reconciliation window bigger so we can make sure no transactions are hidden. Now let's switch back to the bank statement that I've given you. Down here at the bottom of the bank statement, in this area, I've given you the steps for performing the reconciliation. We are now on step C. Starting at the top of the bank statement, we're going to look to see if each transaction is in QuickBooks. If it is, we're going to check it off in QuickBooks. If it's not, we will enter it into QuickBooks, and then we will check it off in QuickBooks. We will continue this process until all the transactions are in QuickBooks and the difference number is 0. So let me switch back to QuickBooks. So the difference number that must be 0 is down here. Right now it's at minus 930. So there's a $930 difference between our bank statement and what QuickBooks says is in our checking account. So I'm going to switch back to the bank statement, and we're going to start at the top like the instructions say. And we're going to start with the first transaction. So the first transaction is this deposit in the deposit section. So what we need to do is look for an $800 deposit in QuickBooks. If we find it, we need to check it off. So notice our deposits are over here on this side, and here is our $800 deposit. So we click on it once, and notice it is checked off. And then we switch back. What I'm going to do now is everything that has been marked off, I'm going to check it off here too. So the next thing we're going to look for is a deposit of $1,800. Switching back to QuickBooks, here's a deposit, $1,800. It is now checked off. Going back to our bank statement, I will check this off. Now we're looking for a $1,000 deposit. And notice it says it's an EFT, collection of a note. EFT stands for Electronic Funds Transfer. So we look over here and we do not see a $1,000 deposit. So what this means is the bank knew about the deposit, but we have not yet entered it into QuickBooks. So we need to enter it into QuickBooks. So switching back to our bank statement, we need to enter this transaction into QuickBooks. So remember, we said that this is a EFT, Electronic Funds Transfer. What this means is the deposit was done electronically. There was no paperwork. So there's a good chance we did not know about it since there wasn't any paperwork to clue us in about the transaction. And in fact, we did not know about this. That's why it's not in QuickBooks. So we have to enter this $1,000 deposit into QuickBooks. This bank statement gives us some clues about the transaction. It's a deposit because it's in the deposit section, and it's a collection of a note. So that means we had a note receivable and someone paid it off. But who paid it off? We have to go look in our notes receivable to see if we have a $1,000 notes receivable. To do that, I'm going to go back to QuickBooks, and I'm going to go to the chart of accounts. I want to make sure my home page is still open. I'm going to go to chart of accounts here, or I could go to lists, chart of accounts. I'm going to go to note receivable, and notice that we have note receivable $1,000. Let's double click the account to look at its register. Wrong account. Here's the note receivable. Bingo, there's a $1,000 note receivable, and the customer is Jane Doe. So it's Jane Doe that owed us the money, apparently because we did some tax preparation service for her. So now we know who it is. We can close this window. And we can close the chart of accounts. Now we have to enter this transaction into QuickBooks since it's not in our accounting records yet. We could enter it into the Make General Journals entry window, which is found here. We could enter it here, but it's easier to enter it into the check register. You can access the check register on the home window right here, or go by banking, or go to banking, use register, and then make sure you select the correct register. Going back to the bank statement, we have to find the date. So it happened on February 17th of 2010. So the date was 02/17/10 for 2010. I'm going to hit tab, and it is not check number 6. It is an electronics fund transfer. I'm going to tab over to the payee. This is Jane Doe, so I type Jane, and then I can tab again. It's not a payment, so I'm going to skip that. It is a deposit of $1,000. And what is the other account that's being involved besides the cash account? It's notes receivable. Then I'm going to record this, and notice we have $1,000 more in our checking account. Now comes the key part. We have to go back to the bank reconciliation window and check off the transaction we just entered. To view the open windows, we can click down here on Open Windows. And here's our reconciliation window. So now we just need to find that $1,000 deposit, single click there, and notice it is now checked off. In the next video, we'll continue checking off transactions from the bank statement.